I'd rather be with you. Yeah.
Amazing.
Welcome to Good Vibe Radio. So as every day, I'm interviewing an entrepreneur that I love, maybe from the family or not, actually. And today we are with Antonin, and we're going to talk about CBD and all the magic we can do with CBD and his company, Meet Harmony. How do you feel, Antonin?
I'm feeling great. It's a good time to bring wellness to people, which is the mission of our company. And that's why we call it Harmony, because we want to bring more harmony for the world, for our users. And we are using cannabis as one of the main tools to create products that bring more harmony in the daily life. And it's been tough few months with the crisis. Everyone locked down. It's very stressful, put a lot of weight, on the atmosphere. And that's definitely now more than ever, and people need more harmony and the product we make. So we've been working like crazy and really pushing for accessibility of our products everywhere we can. And definitely...
Let's start just with the beginning. What is exactly Harmony today?
So Harmony, we are a wellness company, and we create products that solve real challenge in people's lives. And we're using cannabis, and more specifically CBD, which is a compound of cannabis, as one of the main ingredients of our products. So we have three range of products. We have CBD oils, which are oils that people are using for different type of usage. There is a very wide range of usage with CBD oils, and it's been really booming for the past 2 years because it can help.
Like what? Like I can cook. I can put it on my skin.
Yeah, so there is really different methods of application of CBD oil. There is first as a cosmetic product, as you said, and we have also CBD in creams, facial oils, body cream. So on the skin, it's very good because it helps your skin to be hydrated. It also have an anti-inflammatory effect on the skin, and inflammation of skin is the basis for many issues.
Yeah, of course.
So that's very good for the skin. It's also very helpful in oils that you can use in some countries as a food supplement. So it can help to balance your daily life, to unwind after a big day. And particularly right now, when you're locked down, it's good to unwind. So there is different ways to unwind, and some people are drinking alcohol, which is not very good for your health. Some others are smoking weed, which can also be a bit wrong for your lungs. And also it gets you high, which is something some people like, but some people are maybe a bit more uncomfortable with this. And then you have CBD. So CBD doesn't get you high. However, it can help you to unwind after a big day. It can help you to sleep fully very well, depending on people, actually. And so it's really a new compound, and there are still a lot of discoveries to make. And there are still also a lot of studies to back up some specific claims that why CBD is useful or not. And that's one of the big issue as well is
and I would love to learn about your experience on that field, because I know you are one of the first CBD players in Europe, and it's been tough for you. It's already very popular in some other countries. In the US, it's very popular. In Europe, there are still some regulations that you need to cope with. And you've been a pioneer, we can say, in that field. But just before talking about this, maybe let's start with just like what happened during the crisis. What happened during COVID-19? Have you seen like a boom? Like, do people feel the need to use CBD product more?
Yes, we've seen a very big increase on our online sales. So the last category of products we make, it's vaporization. So it's a CBD liquid. It's for smokers. It's much better to vape than smoke, and it's much better to vape CBD than nicotine because CBD is non-addictive, non-toxic. So that's the last category of products we are selling, and it's been extremely popular, particularly during confinement, where people cannot go out. They cannot really smoke inside because also it's not very healthy. So a lot of people started vaporizing CBD during this period. So me, when the crisis started to happen, actually, I started to felt the effect of the crisis back in January, because I have some of my suppliers in China for the packaging, for the hardware, the vaporizer we are doing. It's made in factories in China. So back in January, we had already delayed based on the crisis happening over there. And then when it started to hit in Europe, first of all, we had a drop of our sales to the shops, because shops were closing because of the lockdown. And
how many products, I mean, in terms of percentage, do you sell through retailers?
And it was the majority of our sales. It was 80% of our revenue.
80%. So you lost 80% of your revenue like that?
In a week, more or less, yes. It was really, very big. However, we had the booming sales online via our e-commerce stores. We had not fully compensated, but almost the loss of sales in B2B and via our retailers network. On both our e-commerce store and on Amazon, because we are selling our products on Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon. So both channels exploded in demand. So we really invested all of our resources over there to make sure we can deliver faster, deliver cheaper, and make a lot of marketing. So we started really to make a lot of content as soon as the crisis happened, because for us, the goal is to help our users to find more harmony in their life. So we make products that can help people, but the products is not enough. A lot of time to find harmony in your life, you need also to improve your lifestyle. You need to improve your habits. And particularly during lockdown, you need to create a new self-care routine. So that's been really our focus in marketing, to create content that can help our users to have and adapt their new routine. So we've created content around that via newsletter, via Instagram, and we had amazing reaction. People really loved it, and they were so pleased to see a content that really can help them during this lockdown. And then they bought a lot more of our products too. So it was really good to see that by adapting our marketing strategy to the crisis and really totally reinvent our content planning for the next 2 months, we've been able to support more our users and generate more sales thanks to the interest we had for this piece of content. So in terms of business, it was very difficult, and I worked much more during crisis at home than before crisis, because we needed to reorganize everything. We needed to also make some cost reduction, because unfortunately the B2B sales didn't compensate the B2B sales. So shops were closed, were not buying anymore. We had great online sales and we're making more margin online. So it compensated, but not fully. So we had to reduce some expense, and we had to reduce a bit the amount of hours some people in our team were working, while keeping operation open. So we kept open our logistics center we have here in Barcelona, and everyone else in our team started to work remote. So we did this actually.
Your team is a bit everywhere, right? The core team is in Barcelona, but you also have people in Italy and in other countries, right?
Yeah, we have around 2/3 of our team in Barcelona and 1/3 working remote. We have some people in Italy, in the UK, in France, someone as well in Austria, and someone in Peru, in Latin America, managing all of our retailers over there. So we have already actually from day one built our team to be remote. Everything we do is on Slack. Actually, for me, it's not because we had remote workers, it's just because it's much better to centralize all the data and information in one source of truth, which is Slack. So even in the day-to-day operation, if we are together in the same room, sometimes we're going to talk on Slack, because we want to benefit from the desynchronized communication we can have thanks to Slack. Instead of interrupting our colleagues, we are sending a message, and then they come back to us when they finish our task. So that's for me why we've been starting using Task, and now we can see actually it's much better as well to manage remote work. All of our team in remote has been super productive. We have our weekly meeting in Zoom, and then everything is done on Slack anyway, so it didn't change much. The only thing we did also is to make sure they have a comfortable place to work at home and really give advice on that. But the transition were pretty difficult in terms of reorganizing everything the first 2-3 weeks. But then now we really found our path, and we are actually progressing so much in so many levels in terms of product development or marketing campaigns.
Have you been raising funds for Harmony?
We had a fundraise done early last year.
Okay. How much did you raise?
We raised 1 million euro in total, and we had pretty bumpy roads actually the past 2 years before actually this crisis with coronavirus happened. So we were also very experienced by managing crises, and that's, I think, helped a lot. A lot of time we say we learn the most from difficulties, and definitely we had many crises.
Let's talk about this, Antonin, because I see some questions about the legislation and regulation, like what are the problems, how you can communicate, and you've been facing this like violently, we can say.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that?
Yeah, for me, like dropping my revenue overnight is something which happened before because of change of regulation in some countries that were distributing my products. So for example, in 2018, France was our biggest market in terms of revenue. It was a third of our revenue, more or less. And we had overnight to stop our sales of CBD products in France because they changed the interpretation of the law, which were a bit confusing. And they said more or less the type of CBD we are using in our products, it's not compliant, and we need to use synthetic CBD to make it compliant, which were definitely not good news because we much prefer to use natural CBD. There is absolutely no difference between the natural CBD we are using and the synthetic CBD in terms of toxicology risk. The only difference is one is coming from the cannabis plant, from hemp, and the other one is made in a lab. So it was really bad decision to say that to the industry because
why did they choose to do that? Do you know?
Because based on interpretation of the law in France and the fact that hemp, it's a type of cannabis which doesn't contain THC and doesn't make you high. So it's legally grown in France. However, in France, they mentioned the fact that to not be cannabis, hemp has to be used only for the fiber and the seeds. So it's something, it's a few words they put in the law in comma. So you can interpret it as it's only fiber and seeds you need to use, or fiber and seeds is one example of the part of hemp you can use. So this specific point of regulation, it's a bit complex, it's a bit technical, but made the justice attacking us because when we launched our product, our first CBD product, it was back in 2014, and we are the first in France and in Europe to do this. And we had a lot of press coverage, so a lot of people starting asking questions, and we sent a full report on how we made our product. So we really backed up everything with a law firm, and we are trying to really make things really, really well framed. Yeah. But at the end, they found this little technical thing in the law saying apparently fiber and seeds, it's only way you can use hemp, which after we contested because it's not something which is written on the European Convention. So France normally should allow any type of products legal in European Union to be sold in France if it doesn't create a risk for the users. Which is the case with CBD. So that's how the problem started for us for our legal challenge we had in France. So overnight we had to drop our revenue in France, and we on the side work with lawyers to really challenge this decision up to the past few weeks when we had a positive reply from the European Court of Justice.
So the European Court of Justice said that finally you were right. Versus the final decision of the French judge was you are wrong, to make it.
So yeah, initially the French judge in the first round, they condemned me for like actually 15,000 euro fine and 15 months of suspended jail time. It's crazy. When I read, when you say that, I was at the tribunal. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm making a product to help people. It's legal based on the analysis of my lawyers. It doesn't take any risk, for users. It's a useful product for them. I'm helping smokers. And you condemn me where I did everything more or less right, just for like technical legal points. So it was really crazy for me and shocking actually, because I was really doing this with good intention. I'm a activist, so I didn't make this project just to make money. It's been 10 years I'm involved in cannabis science, doing education in a non-profit organization. So it was not just to make a successful startup, even if my ambition is to grow worldwide. It was also to really help people. And so I explained my case and really bring all the proof of my good faith, but still they condemned me very harshly. So I appealed, and then finally at the appealed court, the judge said that it looks like I was maybe right, and so he asked the opinion of the European Court of Justice. And finally, 2 weeks ago, the Avocat General from the Court of Justice said that I was right and French authorities were wrong. And then in September, we're going to have the final decision of the European judge, which normally follows the Avocat General.
All right.
It's 5 years battle. It's over 100,000 euros of law fees, 100 of hours for me. I'm a world expert on cannabis regulations now. Which definitely I was not expecting to become so good at it, but I didn't have the choice. So for me, it was really painful as well, because it put me my focus a bit away from making products for people. But then in this industry, I mean, I knew where I was going in terms of complexity and difficulties.
You are a lot. You are very paid forward. You are helping a lot of newbie people coming in this field and who know nothing. And there are a lot of startups now starting creating their own CBD product. And I think that's why also we have some questions like. So we have Sophie asking, how are you increasing your visibility as main social media don't allow paid advertising for anything related to CBD cannabis? Is it true?
Yeah, it's true. So there are different techniques. If you really want to make paid advertisement, you need to create a landing page with another domain than your brand. And on this landing page, there is no mention of cannabis or like forbidden words. And there is no option of buying, but this landing page is actually a presentation of your product that after goes to your e-commerce website. And then second technique is, in addition to that, is to use ad agencies that have a big account with Facebook and Instagram. So they have the right account managers that can validate the advertisements. However, I think paid advertisement is super powerful, but as a startup, you don't have much budget usually, and it's good also to work on user acquisition channel that are free. Enfin, everything is as a cost, it's time, but you can do so much with social media without paying for ads. It's content marketing at the end, and particularly in our industry, education is so important that by creating educative content, you really educate your consumers, and then you get visibility and sales. So that's really the strategy we've developed. We are building database of contacts, B2C and B2B. We are sending newsletter on a weekly basis. This is extremely powerful, and we have amazing open rates, and it's been the basis of our strategy newsletter. And then content marketing on social media, affiliation. There's also a lot of ads networks that are not Facebook and Google or Instagram, which are authorizing CBD products. So it's a complexity. There are many complexities in the CBD industries. Sometimes as simple as opening a bank account, but that's definitely also why the opportunity is big, because there is it's not easy. So there is less maybe competition than in some other segments, which is easier to enter.
All right. And so sorry, my cat is moving on me. So we have another question from Estelle regarding this education part. Do people really understand easily the benefit of CBD?
I don't think so. I mean, there is a very big lack of education on CBD. Some people think CBD solves everything. Some people think CBD is from cannabis and is dangerous. And then in the middle, it's hard to find the right information, because you have people that are commercial companies that are not respecting advertisement guidelines and really talking about CBD as a cure for all and trying just to make as more cash as possible. So it's very confusing for end users. And then obviously, you have all these cliches about CBD and cannabis that are a bit scary for people. So the complexity is regulations. Again, we don't have a right framework for allowing advertisement for CBD-based products, for example. And that's really all the work we're doing now with different trade associations that we co-funded in France, in Spain, in Europe, in order to come up with guidelines. So companies doing CBD can communicate and educate in a compliant ways and really build a sustainable industry. Because right now, the problem even is that some companies are using the popularity of CBD to create products that are actually dangerous and don't contain CBD. For example, in the US, you had people creating e-liquids containing very dangerous compound and selling it in the illegal market. And it's compound which you should not vape, and that's like really dangerous because it's synthetic drugs, more or less. And then they were calling that CBD because CBD is so popular. Yeah. So it's really complex to educate people, but that's really the key, is to continue with good companies in Europe to make good marketing, and the market size is gonna grow more and more. We're really just at the beginning, but without good regulation, it's complex. For example, I was talking about studies. There are a need of doing studies to be able to say CBD can do this or CBD can do that. There's a lot of claims we can make with CBD. It's related to health or it's related to wellness or medical. And to be able to make all these claims, you need to make user studies. If it's a medical claim, you need to make clinical trial, which is very costly. If it's more a food supplement, you need to make specific user studies that are less expensive, but still it's a real budget. And right now it's a bit the Far West, and there is a lot of, like, there are dozens of companies doing CBD products, and most of them are not really doing it in a very sustainable way. They're looking for quick cash and really make as more money as they can instead of really looking long term. So yeah, it's a crazy industry. Personally, I love it because it's very challenging and there are a lot of opportunities. But I will say probably resilience and patience are the two best qualities to be in the cannabis industry in Europe today.
What do you see as another opportunity? So you've been doing vaping, the oil for the body and for to eat as well. What else can we have with CBD?
So with CBD, with this free range of products, you cover a bit all of the deliverability system via inhalation, ingestion, or on the skin. After, you can go much further in terms of type of products based on each deliverability system. So, for example, some people are doing like little candy with CBD, foods. I mean, today they put CBD everywhere. They even have a mattress CBD infused.
No.
So when you sleep, you have the CBD infused in your body. I mean, it's absolutely nonsense. They've been putting CBD everywhere, and as long as there is CBD on the packaging, in the US, it's been selling. Wow. In Europe, it's been less crazy than that. But yeah, you can use CBD in many different ways that can be at high dosage for medical application. And there are a lot of products being developed or on the market for medical application at a high dosage. Then at a lower dosage, that can be very useful for food supplement. And then at a very low dosage, that's more for cosmetic applications. So there are not a ton of more, like, we covered already so many things with this. After, for the cannabis plant itself, there are obviously like a very large amount of usage because the cannabis plant, you have the cannabinoids, including CBD. You have other cannabinoids like THC that can be very useful for many medical applications. And then you have the fiber and the seeds that can be used, the seeds to make some type of oil. You can, with the fiber, make some clothes, some rope. You can make some insulation materials. And actually, like hemp paper, for example, was what everyone were using in the 18th century, you know. So before we had papers from the trees, you had paper from hemp. So it's a very versatile plant, and most of their usage has been forgotten because of the war on drugs and prohibition on cannabis. Now, finally, we are getting back to rediscovering the potential of cannabis, and CBD is one of them. And it has a big potential. We're really at the beginning of it. we need more studies in general for cannabinoids and cannabis because the potential is big, but because of the regulations, there are not many scientists working on it. And that's why also for me, I felt very passionate with cannabis 10 years ago, because I realized we have a plant that can be used and solve many issues that are very painful for people. And we don't use it just because there is no good regulation about it. So for me, it's really logical. And I was really thinking it's a great problem to fix, in addition to the opportunity of building a very successful company. It's fulfilling on a personal level and it's fulfilling on an economical one. And that's why I got so passionate about it. But even after 10 years, I feel it's very the beginning, and patience is the key.
Yes, totally. Estelle is asking, how can we, if possible, close the gap between the US and Europe when we see how popular it is in the US? And she said that, for instance, in a Netflix show, they are asking the chef to use CBD to cook the complete meal plan, entry and dessert. And
I think for me, the more startups doing CBD, the best. And that's why also I created Trade Association, because like that we can work together between different companies to really educate the market, educate authorities, so we can really have regulatory frameworks that allow European companies to invest more, make more research, and reach to more clients. So that's really the key. And that's why with the Trade Association, we are helping each other, and even sometimes we are a bit competing with the products we make. But it's very vital to join force so we can push the right information. And today it's complex in Europe because it's a very fragmented market. So ourselves, we launch right away in many countries because we knew it will be super successful. We wanted to make it very successful, and the demand has been extremely big everywhere because we are one of the first to launch it. But then we really faced so many regulatory challenges on a national level. And the problem is there is European law, and then each country are applying their European law a bit differently. So we need a better harmonization of regulations in Europe. It's hard to do that because when decisions are taken in Brussels, how do you reach out to people in Brussels, you know? And I had to learn all of that. And with your trade association, we are working towards that. So we are publishing white paper about CBD. We're organizing events, and it's been really successful and very efficient. For example, now in France, we created some people from members of the parliament from all the different political parties, La République en Marche, Parti Socialiste, Les Républicains. They created a working group at the parliament, a mission d'information, to talk about the regulation on cannabis for recreative usage, medical usage, well-being. And this is also because us as Trade Association, we've been pushing this message to as more member of parliament as possible. And at some point they said, they realized there is an issue we need to fix. And that's why they got together and now are working towards making recommendation for when they're having new regulation. And so they are inviting different experts to see what type of regulation we should deploy in France. Because the lack of regulation is not just dangerous for the competitivity of European companies or French companies in competition with the US. It's also very dangerous for users because you don't have quality standards that are defined. You don't have good accessibility to quality control products. So people are buying illegally the products they want, or they are buying from shops that are not good clarity and quality standards. And so the products made by very small manufacturers, they are actually dangerous for the final users. So this lack of regulation is something very urgent to change. And that's why we're investing a lot of resources and effort. And it's part of the project. If we want to be successful, we need to also work on all these legal aspects and really make sure we are progressing in terms of regulatory framework in Europe. So that's why I said we need to be patient, and because the political speed is totally different from the startup speed, and it takes so much time to move on with new regulations that can allow better accessibility for what we do. So yeah, it's taking many years, and it's going to be a bit long, but at the end the market is going to be huge. And here we are talking only about CBD, which is just one compound from hemp, but there are hundreds of other cannabinoids. There is THC, which is a compound that gets you high, but also can have many usage for well-being or medical application. And soon in Europe, you are going to have a lot of countries that are going to give license to grow cannabis for well-being or for medical usage. And we are very positioned, and we are also building our company to be well positioned to be able to request this type of license and make more products. So right now we are focused on well-being with cannabis, and the second step it will be to make real medical cannabis products once regulation allow it, which will be the case in the next 2 to 3 years.
Chloe is saying that she has been reading a study in 2010 claiming that CBD helped the body synthesize digest sugar, what could be amazing to treat diabetes. Have you heard of this? And do you work with doctors to verify claims like this?
Yeah, so I started my cannabis journey with the study of medical cannabis, and we created a non-profit organization about medical cannabis back in 2009. I co-founded that. So I really got interested by this aspect of cannabis. And then for my business, I really started by wellness, well-being, so not medical. Because medical cannabis is still very restricted today, and there are many opportunities to develop right away, but it's going to take many years before to have a real return of investment. And I cannot wait so many years because of issues with fundings. As in Europe, it's complex to find fundings from the startups investment scene for this type of products, because it's very different from the tech industry, even if it's innovation, and it's been much more difficult than in the US, for example, to find fundings. So that's why we started to focus on the wellness usage of CBD from hemp, as it will allow, and it was allowing us to make mass consumer products with cannabinoids accessible right away, generate a profit and reinvest after to make more products and other type of cannabinoids available for medical usage, for example. So that's why I said it's the step 2. It hasn't started yet, even if I'm definitely passionate about all the studies showing how you can use cannabinoids for many type of medical applications. And this one about diabetes is really interesting and definitely super relevant. Us, it's not the purpose of the products we make today. We don't have active studies on medical cannabis at the moment as a company, but we are definitely collaborating on a non-profit level with scientists and trying to discover more and more of the potential of cannabis for many medical applications. In terms of the pharmaceutical market in Europe, right now is very restricted. So the framework is very complex to understand, because on one side you have the pharmaceutical framework. So pharmaceutical companies using cannabinoids to make drugs that go via clinical trials and that after are sold in pharmacies all over the world, and that can be refunded by medical insurance. So for example, there is a company like this in the UK called GW Pharma. And that's tens of millions of euros in investment and even more in order to make this type of products available on the market. And then you have another framework which is developing now in North America and in Europe, which is a medical cannabis program, where you have access to cannabis, the flower or the extract itself, and you consume it a bit independently with medical certification. But this product is not going via clinical trial. So it's a bit of a gray area still, because you call that medical cannabis, but you don't really have clinical trials or user studies to really back up exactly what this plant can do. However, they are doing this because they know cannabis is very useful in many applications possible. Also, cannabis is non-toxic, so you cannot die from cannabis. It can get you addictive with THC, of course, and it can create some psychotropic effect. So if you're sensitive to that, Better to not take THC, but better to take CBD actually. But then the framework is not the same as a clinical trial. So more or less, it's an amazing opportunity, business opportunity too, to create medical cannabis products that are available and efficient to mass consumer market without to invest tens of millions of euros in clinical trial. So it's kind of like, for me, disrupting the big pharma industry. And that's why also it's being so hard to push the accessibility of this plant, because it's really treat to a lot of drugs that are prescribed now by the pharmaceutical industry. And if you look at studies in the US, some states that have medical cannabis program for many years have actually a decrease of usage of many prescribed drugs, because people are replacing synthetic drugs that have a lot of bad secondary effect with cannabis, which is more natural. So after, we need to make more studies, and it's definitely just the beginning of the discoveries on what we can do with this plant. But the potential for medical is really big, and that's definitely the step two. The step two we want to take in the next couple of years.
Cool. Antonin, we are already at the end of this amazing moment.
It was so cool. Thank you, Alice.
Two last questions. First one is, who do you like to call as an entrepreneur when you feel like you need to talk with another entrepreneur and to be inspired by and to exchange?
Like to call physically, or who I would like to call?
I know who you call physically, for real, and who you would like to, if you want also.
Who I call physically, I will say I have first. I'm working for 5 years with my team, so a lot of people in my team are really smart and can give me most of the replies I need to. Then I have in Barcelona as well a couple of friend entrepreneurs that I'm reaching out, and we have some dinner sometimes. For us, I mean, there is not a lot of complexities in our business. It's all about executing at the top level. And that's why for me, it's more a question of like execution and deployment more than finding solutions to challenge. We have the solutions, we just need to execute. And then after, for me, it's very cliche, but I'm obviously inspired mostly by Elon Musk, as is the guy who is resolving.
Have you watched the launch of SpaceX?
I did, yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I love the suit. It looks like science fiction, and it's really guys that are trying to solve issues that nobody else tried to solve, and that are very difficult. And that's why also I feel so inspired by this type of entrepreneurs that are not only solving superficial issues, but really trying to solve the biggest issues humanity has. And that's why also I call my company Harmony, because I feel the world is going in a very dark direction with the climate crisis mostly. And so if we can help to bring a bit more harmony in the world, I think it will be the best mission we can have for the rest of our life.
Cool. Can you give me like one song that you love to listen to in the morning to feel good?
So right now, I mean, I'm really in different phase with music. So now it's been like a few years. I live in Barcelona, so I'm really into Latin music, and I'm really into reggaeton.
Which one?
So myself, I really love Bad Bunny, which is really my bro. And then, yeah, it's really amazing artist. It's pretty young, from Puerto Rico. And it's very positive, but also is been bringing some good thought to the reggaeton scene, which were really a scene about sex and alcohol and cannabis, which I like, all of that, but it was a bit superficial, and really Bad Bunny bring a bit more thought to the community. And he made a lot of featuring with very famous people. But if I can tell you my favorite, it will be La Cartera.
La Cartera.
Si.
La Cartera, Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny, as it's a music where they talk only about cannabis, so obviously it's my favorite.
All right, so it's a good music to end this. Voilà. this moment.
Amazing.
Everybody, you can start doing the networking if you enjoy this moment. You just click on networking and you start talking about cannabis or anything else with the people that you're going to meet. Thank you very much, Antonin. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Alice. It was so amazing. Really appreciate.
Bye-bye.
Time with you. Bye-bye.